welcome to Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast. Guys, I have a special guest tonight. A man that's kind of a man who has been part of this podcast from the beginning, and we're going to talk about that. He's a true pillar of professional wrestling and a man whose passion for preserving its history is second to none. Our guest is the driving force behind SICW, the visionary behind one of the most respected fan experiences in the industry, and a tireless ambassador for old school wrestling values. He has dedicated his life to honoring the legends, educating the fans, and keeping the spirit of professional wrestling alive for future generations. It is an absolute honor to welcome a promoter, a historian, a lifelong wrestling advocate, a fan, a man, in my opinion, who is the backbone to the slogan for the CAC, Circle of Friendship, not just because of his placement in CAC, but because I've witnessed it myself. I have experienced this friendship. I am talking about no other than Herb Simmons. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you, Kevin, for that introduction. I'll tell you, that's probably the best one I've ever got, and probably the only one I'll ever get like that. But it's really a pleasure to join you again here on a hot show. I'm telling you, I try to catch you each and every time you're on, and the guests you're bringing on, and keeping the history alive of professional wrestling is what it's all about.
I do, and I truly meant what I said, because I don't know if you noticed in my intro, but so much of my intro is actually things that took place at the very first Fanfest that I've been to, and some that took place in Vegas at the CAC reunion, the 59th reunion. But you have been someone that was one of my first guests. You're kind of a regular guest on here. I mean, look, you were someone that, man, when the podcast was so basic, I was still having equipment problems, and now I have different equipment, and it's just come so long, and you've been a big part of that. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So much of my success has been because of the friendship that you have offered me with introducing me to so many people that really kind of got my start here. So you are a huge part of Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast. Michael McCurdy says, hello, gentlemen. Mike, thanks for joining me, my friend.
Mike's another great guy. I'll tell you, I enjoy him. And not to interrupt you there, but, I remember when you first showed up on the scene of this crazy thing we call professional wrestling, I remember you saying you kind of felt like a fish out of water, but I just told you, take it in stride. And like the CAC says, it's the ring of friendship, and there's no other fans like wrestling fans. And I know everybody says, well, there's football fans and baseball fans and soccer fans, but I'm telling you, and I've been around all of them, but wrestling fans are in a league of their own, and it's a good league, and I'm proud just to be a small part of it.
Yeah, you are so right. We're going to actually talk about wrestling fans in a little bit, but it's funny because wrestling fans are fans that can make me more angry than any other fans. But at the same time, I'm so proud to be part of those fans, because part of it is because they're just so damn passionate, unlike any other fans. They really are. But the first thing I want to talk about, you've been promoting professional wrestling for over 5 decades. What has kept that passion burning on the inside of you for so long, Herb?
Well, I think what really keeps the fire lit, even though each year it gets a little bit dimmer as you get older, of course, but it's because of people like yourself and the fans. We talk about them. I have met so many tremendous fans in this business, above and beyond the workers, the legends. And any of them will tell you that, without the fans, there is no wrestlers, there is no business. And you've got to have those fans to support you. And I was taught at a young age by the gentleman who I refer to as the god of professional wrestling, the late, great Sam Muchnick, and then my good friend, his protege, Larry Matisek, that if you treat the fans right, they will treat you right. And by gosh, I'm telling you, I've generations after generations of fans that still come, that their parents came, their grandparents came. This is my 53rd year this month. And like I said, youngsters, when they were coming with their mom and their grandparents, are now bringing their children. And it's just, I think that's what keeps me going. And then having a passion growing up, being a fan myself, everybody asked me that question. Well, how did you get involved? Same way we all did. It's talking or watching it. You become a fan. You become addicted. It's like a drug, and back in the day when there wasn't a lot of television channels to watch. We only had 3 channels in the St. Louis market area at one time. So you were kind of limited to what you want. And I always tell everybody, it was the wrestling, Three Stooges, and roller derby. And then maybe on a Saturday night, you'd get a Tarzan movie or something like that. But so wrestling was it. I mean, my mom and I grew up, my brothers and sisters wasn't as enthusiastic about it as I was, but my mom was, and that meant a world to me.
Yeah. Now, for all the younger fans out there who may just be new wrestling fans, talk to them about SICW. Talk to me about why SICW is so different, and it really is, in my opinion. And why do you think SICW has also lasted throughout all these years? I mean, you guys were around during the times of the territories, and when so many went under, here you are still going strong.
Well, I think one of the reasons why I always flew underneath the radar screen, I didn't want to try to be something that I knew we weren't. I knew that we were I hate the word, and you and I have discussed this before, independent, because I don't consider any wrestler out there that's laced up his or her pair of boots and put on a pair of tights as an independent wrestler. When you go to these states that have a strict athletic commission, our athletic commission, they don't give you a license that says you're an independent wrestler. They say you're a professional wrestler. And so the word independent shouldn't even be mixed in there. But nowadays, it's just a kind of a second nature to be used that way. But I always flew underneath that radar screen. I didn't try to be the WWE or whoever it may be, even back in the days of the territories. I kind of niched out my little area here in Illinois. Dabbled over in Missouri for some time, but and gave the fans what they wanted. They wanted to know the good against the evil. They wanted to know them storylines. They wanted to leave there at the end of a show thinking, what's going to happen next time we come back here and buy that ticket? What are we going to be in store for? All promoters. There isn't one promoter out there in this business, or it has been in this business, doesn't tell you that their product is the best ever. That's right. Just us. We all say that. What I say is that we are the best in the business because we are probably one of, if not the last old school promotion that tries to keep that old school mentality alive, the basics. And I just think that even as generations have passed and these young people that are out there now, they can go back and search all this stuff on YouTube and all these other platforms. And when you go out there and see the likes of some of the Johnny Valentine matches and the Gene Kaniskis and Lou Thez, and then you sit there and say, wait a minute, they're not acting like a fish out of water. And man, this is interesting. So I think as long as there's that accessibility out there, which it's going to be there forever. I think our style of wrestling maybe is not as popular as the Flash and the Pyrotechs and all of that stuff, and I have nothing against all of that. I mean, I was at a show a couple weekends ago, and a small show. They had their flashing lights and all that, and it's great atmosphere. The fans who was there loved it. But as I was sitting there with my son and the people I was with, I said, that doesn't sell tickets.
Right.
The Pyrotech, some people may jump into it, but a small percentage of it. When fans are coming there, they're coming, one, to root for who they believe in or boo the bad guy. And they want to know when they leave there that their money's worth was given to them. And I think that's what sets SICW apart. We keep them, hey, we want to come back for more.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Mr. McCurdy says, what's one of your favorite memories of Sam Michnick?
The first time I got to sit down and eat a steak dinner with him at the Fairmount Park racetrack, myself and Larry Matisick, and I didn't know we were going to meet him. Larry called me that afternoon and said, "Come on, we're going out to dinner tonight." And I had been hanging around the office with Larry. Larry had started with Sam when he was 16 years old, sweeping the floor, emptying the waste cans, just doing errands for Sam because he knew Larry wanted to be a writer. Which he ended up writing 5 books. But we ended up going out to the racetrack in Collinsville, Illinois, and walked into the restaurant, and there sat God. And that's what I referred to him as. And we sat down and we ordered. And as we got to talking, he said, Larry tells me you want to know about the wrestling business. And I said, yeah, let's get one thing straight right now, though. I don't want to be a worker. I'm not the guy to go in and take those bumps because my hat's off to them guys because I bruise real easy. And I said, I want to know the integral parts that happen behind the scenes, how this all gets put together. And as he's cutting up that steak, and we sit there after a while, and I'd always heard the horror stories about how ruthless the business was, cutthroat and all this and that. And he's got that steak knife and he's cutting up his steak and he takes that steak knife. And I'm thinking, oh man, is some of these rumors that I hear true? Am I getting ready not to leave out of here tonight? And he takes that knife, tip of that steak knife, and he points it to his ear and he says, if you keep this open, and he points it to his lips and he says, if you keep these closed, you'll go a long way in this business. Now, later on in my life, I got to meet the people like Bruiser Brody, become real good friends with him. And it was people like him and Dick Murdoch and Greg Valentine that said, and I tell them that story and they'd say, yeah, don't let your kindness be mistaken as your weakness. So there's times a promoter has to know when a time is enough, especially when you're negotiating with some of the boys. And I think I pretty well got a reputation of where I'm fair, I'm honest, but I want to be treated fair and honest also. But yeah, it's that night with Sam. I mean, that was like the highlight of my career.
Before we go any further about talking about SICW, because I have some more questions about it, I want to talk to you about something that seems to be kind of heating up in SICW. That's Mr. AJ Wallace and Travis Cook. What's going on with those guys, man? Because it seems like it's getting a little personal and heated between them.
Yeah, well, AJ is a wrestling fan. I mean, he is a wrestling fanatic, and I like I said, I love all these fans because without fans, there is no wrestling. Right. There's no SICW. There is nobody. So I love it when the fans interact. I love it when the AJs voice their opinion. Travis Cook, it's no secret. He's not a real close friend of mine. He comes and goes. I call him Travis the Crook Cook. But AJ has always disliked Travis because of the way he treats me. And so you might say AJ has got my back. But again, it's harmless. It's probably if they ever met up, Travis would probably take off running from AJ.
Now, I actually had a question then to lead into the segue because I had a feeling he was going to answer it that way with Travis Cook. You're not, he's not your favorite person in the world, but yet he's there with SICW. I think that anybody who thinks that any professional wrestler could just walk into SICW or for any promotion and just get a job wrestling there, I think that's just as silly as believing that any football player could just walk into the NFL and, just get hired with the NFL. For you, and I'm sure it has to be difficult because there's so many great professional wrestlers out there. How do you determine who are you going to bring on to SICW? Because again, you really can't go according to your emotions with who you like and don't like, because again, there's people like your Travis Cooks in the world. So how does one become part of that SICW?
Well, and that's a good question. And like I said, there isn't a week that goes by that I don't receive messages from workers from around the country. And I'm not exaggerating there, especially now with Fanfest coming up in a few months. Everybody's wanting to be a part of that. But what I've done over the years is, you have to prove yourself. The first thing when somebody calls me and, if they message me or if I get an email from them, I'll hook up on the phone with them. I can tell within the first 2-3 minutes how smart they are to the business. I can tell one of the first questions is, okay, where have you been trained? Who's trained you? If you tell me you was at the Dory Funk's Conservatory, you got a foot in the door. If you tell me you were trained by Harley Race when he was still with us, you got 2 feet in the door. There are reputable training schools out there that opens the door for you. If you tell me, oh, you and your buddies used to go out in the backyard and wrestle around, nothing against that, because I know some great wrestlers out there. A young man right now that's just joined locker room, Chris Exodus, young man, really come a long way. And so there's nothing against that. But it's the difference of day and night. It's the difference of knowing. I'll put it to you this way. If Chris, the gentleman I'm talking about, if he'd have went to one of those training schools at the Harley Races or the Bob Whartons or Dory Funk or wherever it may be, one of those legitimate schools, this guy would be a rocket. You'd have to tie him down because his butt would be flying all over this country. It took him longer to get where he's at now because he had to overcome that stigma of backyard wrestling with my buddies. And again, I don't have nothing wrong with that. You do what you can, you do what you can afford, but it's not impossible. I always tell everybody, I did the same thing. I followed my dream. So when you hear people say, hey, follow your dream, some of us catch it and some of us don't. The ones that usually don't is because they get distracted. They didn't have the drive to do it anyway. But a guy like Chris, people like that, I got people in my locker room. That's what they've done. They followed their dreams. People like Attila Khan, Superstar Steve Fender that were trained by Harley Race. And when you see them in the ring, especially a Steve Fender, his movements, his style is just, it's a patent after Harley Race. So right. That's the difference in learning the proper way early on. And it would have been a lot easier on these young guys that don't do that they go out and try to learn it on their own.
Right.
But back to your answer. Yeah, I start off with that. Where were you trained at? How many matches have you had? Things of that sort. Send me a picture. Send me some videotapes. I want to see you. I send them off to my booker, and he looks at them. A couple of my generals in the locker room. Some people may not know what I'm talking about, that if you're not into wrestling, but a booker is a guy who is a promoter's right-hand guy. The generals are control of basically the locker room, the gorilla position and stuff like that. So, and I've got a great team that I couldn't do what I do without that. And of course, my family. I mean, it's a family organization.
Now, my next question, I'm not asking this because I want to know if someone's right or wrong, and I'm not even mentioning names. I want your wisdom. There was not too long ago, one of the big promotions had made the comment that you really don't need storytelling in professional wrestling to just book great matches. How important is storytelling to Herb Simmons?
Well, I think that my granny had a saying, the proof is in the pudding. Mm-hmm. And for 53 years, that pudding has been the greatest you've ever tasted. And that's SICW. And I'm speaking for my fans, right. And I'm talking about, we pick up new fans every show, everywhere we go. And the response that I get back from overwhelmingly is, man, oh man, this is great. This is what I used to hear my parents and grandparents talk about. And these bigger promotions, they don't care about storylines. If they did, they'd be doing it. If you gave me the library that WWE has, or WWE, I'll use them as an example, and give me the library of everybody they bought up, which they didn't buy up St. Louis because Larry Matisek and I kept mm-hmm. that. But if even when Vince was there, if he'd have took in just one match on a Monday night, on a Tuesday night, however, I don't even know how many nights it's on a week anymore, but if they'd have just put an old classic match on, then all of a sudden you start pulling in that demographics. That's what I do. Every Sunday night, we try to throw in one of our old St. Louis classic matches. And the people tell me, oh my gosh, we love the local stuff. We love the new stuff you're doing. But when that match comes on with a Ric Flair in a Harley race or a Bruiser Brody against Dory Funk Jr., it takes us back into our childhood. So now I'm catching the demographics. And now if somebody from WWE is monitoring you and they come up with that idea, then I'm going to tell them they owe me some money for that.
If WWE's monitoring me, hire me, guys.
Oh, believe me, if they got people out there that's doing it. I mean, if you put something on YouTube, and we get hit every now and then on a piece of music that somebody may have playing in the background.
Wow, really?
And WWE, oh yeah, they monitor everything, and but don't ever fool yourself thinking that they don't.
Right.
Especially when you're out there doing what you're doing. You know, you're not one of the podcasts that's a hit and a miss. Oh, I'm going to do it this month. I'll do it maybe a couple of months down the road. You got a regular thing going on. Right. And so you're getting in there. You're in that algorithm, man. You're out there. They know who's on there. They know my show's on every Sunday night at 8:00 Central. So don't cut yourself short.
Yeah. And I'm going to have you tell the fans where they can watch SICW in a second. But before that, obviously you have talent that's amazing that works for SICW, but does it ever come to a point that you get worried that this guy is so good that I'm going to lose this guy? Or is it one of those things that, you know what, it's going to suck to lose him, but God bless him, man. I want them to be as successful as possible.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing, you know, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., who's his name that you've met him.
Yep, great guy.
He ran my Ace Wrestling Academy for us here at SICW. With him and some of my senior guys like the Big Texan, Sean Vincent, Gary Jackson, people like that would work out at the academy with the new students. And one of the things that they always told these new students is, we want you to come here. We want you to learn the right way. And we want you to blossom. We want you to represent us. And I'll use an example right now. Strictly Business Brandon Beretta. Mm-hmm. Young man, graduated from the Ace Wrestling Academy. When he walked into the academy, he was a short, little, dumpy young man that everybody looked at him and said, okay, how long will it be before he washes out? And now this guy has been at OVW. He's with NWA. He's up with EC3. I remember the day he called me and said, hey, boss, I've got an opportunity here. And I said, what's that? We talked about it. And I over the years, there's been this thing of I have what's called a 25-mile rule. If you work for us, you can't work for another promotion within that 25-mile from the county line. It wasn't my idea. It was a locker room's idea that came up with that years ago. But Herb Simmons, the grandfather or godfather, whatever they call me, I take the blame for it, and I don't mind it because I take the blame for my locker room. Mm-hmm. But it made sense. And then when I've explained it to some of the naysayers, if I'm working Kevin as my number one heel in my organization, and my opposition runs a show 10 miles down the road and they're using Kevin and on the opposite side, now what have we done now? We've done nothing but confuse the fans more. Yeah. And I don't care what everybody says about everybody knows what wrestling is. Don't care. I say it's like a toothpaste. Yeah, maybe the toothpaste is out of the tube, but I'm not going to continue to squeeze the tube.
Right.
I want people to come to my shows. I want them to come and I want them to sit there and be involved. I want them to interact. I want them to boo. I want them to cheer. And when they leave out that door at night and I'm standing at the exit door, I'm thanking them for coming. I'm shaking their hands and kissing babies because they spend their hard-earned money to come and watch 2.5 hours. Because what I tell them is I can't make things change for you, but give me 2.5 hours and I will put you in a land of disbelief. Now you got to come back to reality.
Right.
But for 2.5 hours, you're going to sit here and enjoy what you're seeing. And it's all because of those men and women in that back room that are coming out there busting their butt each and every show.
Right. Right. Yeah. Where can fans catch SICW? I know you can catch it on YouTube besides in person if you're in the area.
Yeah, we have a website, SICW.org. And now's really the time to go because we've got all the information up on our coming shows. We got one coming up this weekend, one on the 21st for the I-9 Shriners Temple in East St. Louis, Illinois. We go there every year to help raise funds. As you and I have talked before, about 95% of what we do is for nonprofit organizations. police departments, fire departments, Shriners, benefits for, we had a fire chief that had medical issues. We ended up raising him close to $40,000. Another fire department over 8 years, we raised them right about $40,000. So we just recently, the county animal services in the county here, we raised them right about $10,000 for our puppy dogs and kitty cats. Nice. So, we do all kinds of stuff like that. But SICW.org is where we list everything. And of course, I'm on Facebook daily, posting what we're doing, keeping track of what's going on in and around the wrestling world. So if anybody wants to hit me up, all I got to do is look up Herb Simmons. And then every Sunday night, we're on YouTube, SICW. You can get it under SICW Explosion or SICW Championship Wrestling or SICW All-Star Wrestling. I think we got 578 episodes on there right now.
Yeah, and all of my fans, I'm going to post this on the podcast where you can find it at when I publish this podcast, and as well as you can usually find it on the YouTube channel for SICW on my page at some point every Sunday as well. Bob Cook is joining us. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that, brother. Co-host.
There's a guy right there, man. I told you, Bob in his heyday, he made a lot of these legends.
Absolutely, Bob's one of the greatest. Let's talk about Fanfest. Now, Fanfest 3, that was absolutely amazing. I was there last year, met so many great people, and didn't just meet and became friends to this day with them. But I know last year we were leaving Fanfest 3. I said, Herb, is there gonna be a Fanfest 4? And you're like, I don't know. Here we are, Fanfest 4. What keeps you going with these Fanfests?
Well, I remember that conversation you and I had. In fact, I remember when I pulled in there that morning about 2:00 at the hotel to drop off Dory Funk and his lovely wife, Marty. You was pulling in underneath the canopy. And when I got out, I heard this Herb Simmons. And who the heck is up crazy like me at this time of the morning? And there was you and your lovely wife. And so I'm glad it worked out that way. And I remember telling you and a lot of people, because each year I've said that because it is a logistical nightmare. Finding the right venue, getting their talent to come in, and then, arranging flights for 50 or 60 guests coming in and out, making sure the hotel can accommodate it. And I've told this story on a couple other programs that I've done. There wasn't going to be a Fanfest 4. This all came about within about 7 to 10 days. I had to make a decision, and it was with the help of a couple of my good friends in the business, legends. They've been at our shows. They've been in before. I've worked with them over the years, and they all said, Herb, you're keeping everything alive in that St. Louis market area. You need to do it. So in about 7 to 10 days, we found a location, got it all worked out. And I'm going to tell you, Kevin, this thing is, we're still 4 months away, I guess, roughly. And it's the phone's ringing off the hook. I was I had a conversation this evening with the hotel. It's filling up. And that was our conversation today. There's another hotel right next across the roadway there at the Holiday Inn that if there's any overflow, they may try to get people over there. But it's and that's why I tell people when I'm doing my post that, if you haven't got your reservations, already now I think we got representatives from about 11 different states, Canada, that's already made their reservations. And here we are. We haven't even announced the entire lineup so far. And but what keeps me going is, like I said, the drive. I got it. My son, Jason, is stepping into my shoes, and he'll be the first to tell you that they're still a little big for him. But he's learning. He's learning off the old man. And and then, like I said, my wife, my daughter-in-law, my sister, everybody. I got some good friends. I got a great locker room. I remember back a few years back when Larry Matisek passed away, and a good friend of mine, Ron Powers, was one of my farmer champions, and he was at our show last couple of years with us, and he came back and helped save the company when Haku and Barbarian and Attila Khan was trying to steal it away with Stephen E. I know you remember that.
Yep.
And the night we did a memorial service for Larry Matisek, Ron Pyers was there paying tribute to Larry, and discussed with the capacity crowd we had that night of the talks that him and Larry and I used to have over the years. And he left it kind of like, and he was talking to the boys in the back room and the fans. He said, the thing we all better be worried about, we all love what Herb's doing. We all love the old school that he continues to push out that he grew up on. What happens when there's no Herb Simmons? And a lot of the guys that's in my locker room now, we have that conversation. The Big Texan and I talk all the time when he's available. And that seems to be the sentiment of there's got to be somebody. I'm hoping that somebody's my son that can keep it going for the fans. The fans are going to continue to come to wrestling if they like the product that you're giving them.
Right.
And so far, we seem to be having a good run of that.
Yeah. I don't know Jason well. I've met him though. Seems like a great man. I mean, he's friendly. He's fun to talk to. He's your son, so I'm sure that he'll do very, very well. Fanfest this year is May 8th through the 9th. I mean, you have legends like JBL, Mickey James. Now, Mac and Teddy Long, they're going to be doing their podcast live from there, won't they be?
I think they will. Yeah, I've got them. Mac, and in fact, I announced the last Wednesday night. I didn't, but Teddy Long and I are in a little talk. There may be a possibility that I bring him on as the general manager to help me get this stuff finalized. Because, as I said, I'm getting calls from wrestlers from around the country.
Right.
If I put everybody on that card that's calling me, we'll be there for a week just having wrestling matches. And of course we can't do that, but I can't think of anybody better than a Teddy Long, and I hope I can get things worked out with him. And but him and Mac are scheduled to be there. Two great guys, great podcast. I enjoy it. And they know all the business, and it's always great to have people like that around you, associated with you. So hopefully they'll be there and set it all up.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Mac and Teddy's podcast is one of my favorites. I love them because they're funny, and they're down to earth. It's like just watching two regular guys who are wrestling fans talking. They are an amazing duo, and they're also just so kind. Mac is such a great guy. I really love Mac.
Yeah, he's real helpful, and like I said, he's really knowledgeable. And there's some controversy going on now with Big Nasty Glenn Williams. I don't know if you've been following that, where he, for some reason, he has an axe to grind with some of these legends, especially JBL. Yep. And on last night's program, he was calling out Buck Bagwell and Robert Gibson from the Rock and Roll Express, because when they've been in, he's kind of wanted to pull that, hey, it's my time now. You guys are too old. You need to retire. And, sometimes you got to be careful. Some of these older legends aren't out of their prime yet. And people like Wildfire Tommy Rich and guys like that can still get in there and go. And Robert Gibson's one of those guys. JBL, he, for some reason, he's really got an axe to grind. But I sent him a message yesterday and just said, hey, look, JBL is coming in. He's coming in to sign autographs, meet the fans. So I don't know if you want to keep poking that bear. So, but we'll see.
I wouldn't want to, JBL's guy, I wouldn't want to get caught by his clothesline.
Yeah, Larry, he throws. I tell you, well, he's we like to say he stole it, and he said it. He stole it from Stan Hansen, and then Big Texan in our locker room stole it from JBL, I guess, But I don't want to be on the other end of that of any of them. I didn't want to be on the end of the Buck Bagwell when he clobbered. Big Nasty at the Missouri Athletic Club last year, or when Ricky Martin clobbered him at Fanfest 3. Yeah. So, sometimes you reap what you sow. And but he has purchased the time to do his show live on that Saturday, May 9th. He'll be there doing his Nasty Talk live, and
Okay.
I don't know if I like that or not, but he's paying for it, and he's got a sponsor to do it. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
You brought up Buff Bagwell. Buff was on my the podcast right after he went through his surgery. Actually, I think I was one of the first podcasts he was on after he had his leg amputated, and I told Buff, I went, "You're not human," because this guy got his leg amputated, and I swear to you, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I swear I don't even think it was a good week before he was back in the gym. I mean,
2 days after his surgery, I was talking to him on the phone.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing. I'm thinking, and he had been in with us like a month before that. We had a private show that he came in for. I had him. Who else did I have? Brutus Beefcake and Tito Santana. And that was like the month before. And I knew he was having problems, of course. And, but then, 2 days after surgery, I mean, I texted him just to say, hey, get well, and hell, he calls me. And, I'm thinking, man, you're not human.
Yeah. Buff, I have such respect for him, and not just because he's a professional wrestler, but because of all the things this man has overcame so many things. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. When I heard that he was having his leg amputated, I was worried about him. I was honestly worried that, is this going to knock him back to put him in that place that he was at, that he had to overcome? And let me tell you, he proves me wrong, because he is such an inspiration and such a strong individual. He's one of my favorite interviews that I've had. Just a remarkable person, and he's going to be there as well, correct?
Yeah, Buff Bagwell will be there, and he'll also. When I brought him in last year, I took him to a recovery center, and he did a couple-hour lecture there with drug addicts and alcohol. And I'm telling you, I sit there and listen to it, and you could have heard a mouse crawl across that floor. And they're actually going to have him come back and do it this time, because it was such an impact on the clients that they had there. And because when he talks, the emotion is there, and he doesn't pull any punches. I mean, when the old saying is you have to hit rock bottom, well, he'll tell you he was below rock bottom. Right. And he got pulled up out of there, and now he's giving back.
Yeah, and I think one thing about him too, and not saying other people who share what they've gone through aren't sincere, but as you said, he pulls no punches, and he is so sincere and so truthful when he talks that you can absolutely feel it. Now, tell me, what is different about FanFest 4 compared to the original FanFest, Herb?
Well, the original FanFest 1 was, the first one that it had ever been tried here in the Midwest to that magnitude. I mean, when you stop and think, we brought in almost 60 legends and putting them all in one hotel. And so that was an undertaking itself. And then, of course, that caused me to lose about, a couple of years of my life, I think, because, 60 trips in from the airport, then the next day, 60 trips back to the airport. So after that, and that was the excitement. That was the buzz. That was, oh man, we did one similar, a lot smaller back in 2012. We had a gentleman that wanted to do one, but it was nothing. There was no wrestling. There was no Hall of Fame with it. It was just legends in. They talked, signed autographs. They had a ring there that we gave them to set up to take picture photo ops. We tried telling the promoter back then that was fronting the money for it that you need to do a wrestling show. Well, no, he didn't want nothing to do with it. He was a Road Warrior fanatic, and he wanted to just take pictures with the shoulder pads on. And Animal was there with us, and so it was nothing like this. But I mean, that even we had a lot of talent. We had the Funks. We had Superfly Snuka back then. Kamala, the Ugandan giant, was with us. And I mean, it was a list. There was about 22 of them, but it was nothing to the magnitude of what we did on FanFest 1. And then it's just kind of that was the buzz. Everybody talked about it. Oh, this is great. Hotel was okay. Of course, we had some problems with the air conditioning. That kind of turned people off. Well, they promised we'd get it set right. Second time we go back, and same thing. And then last year, we're out at the Hilton at the airport, a beautiful hotel. I learned a lesson from that just because it's at the airport, when you mention airport, the first thing now that I know comes to people's mind is congestion.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's right across the interstate, it wasn't the easiest hotel to find and get to. Then we have the tornado come through. And that kind of put the dampers on a lot of people coming out. People lost their homes. People are still recovering from that in St. Louis and over here into the northern part of Edwardsville, Illinois. So there was a combination of things there that made me think, do I want to do another one? But then, like I said, 10 days, about 7 to 10 days before I announced it, this all fell together. And so that's going to be my excuse if it don't turn out right. I should have followed my gut instincts, but with the response of people and just the legends that are helping and calling, and the other, I can't say enough for some of these other people out there, like GT Collectibles is going to be bringing in a few people, HMS Collectibles, New Breed Entertainment that are bringing in a few of the guests.
Wow.
So, I mean, when you got that, and then of course the St. Louis Hall of Fame that Larry and I and my senior referee Nick Rednar started years ago. We've announced 3 people already that's going to be inducted into that. One, Spike Huber, who worked for me for many, many years, the former son-in-law of Dick the Bruiser, a name that all wrestling fans should remember. Yeah. Did a lot of work for me and a lot of work in St. Louis. He's being inducted. He'll be there. And then Johnny Rods, gentleman, he's 85, 86 years old. Great talent back in the day. He's coming in, well deserving of it. Man, still in the gym every day, 7 o'clock in the morning, and training the next generation of wrestlers. And then Andre the Giant is being inducted.
Nice.
And his daughter, Robin, is joining us. So
wow.
Chris Owens, a good friend of ours that has the Andre the Giant collection, the memorabilia, he comes in just about each year. He's coming in, and of course he's got Robin coming in. And so fans who were Andre the Giant fans, and again, if you weren't, you probably weren't a big wrestling fan then, because the 8th wonder of the world caught everybody's attention. And just a gentle giant, as we used to call him here in the area when we got to sit down and talk with him. But so Andre's being inducted in there.
Right. Now, talk to some of my fans. Look, if you like me, my wife, she's not a wrestling fan. And if that is that something it's making you hesitant about going, because you and your wife, like me and my wife, we do everything together. Look, I'm telling you, yeah, my wife asks a lot of questions during a lot of the things, the activities that's happening. But let me tell you, she loves the social aspect of it. She's actually excited to go back this year because of the social aspect. So I promise you, if you're worried about your spouse not being a big wrestling fan, get them to come with you anyway. Get tickets, because they will enjoy the social aspect of it, because you will meet some incredible people. I promise you that's what's going to take place. Again, my wife is not a wrestling fan at all. Michelle always says, I know more about wrestling than I ever thought I wanted to. But she's excited to be there this year because she met so many women who were wrestlers. She became friends with. She absolutely loves them. She adores them. So guys, get tickets. Go to SICW.org to get them. Herb, you named a few people. I know I named some other people. Is there any others you want to name that's going to be there?
Well, that Friday night, we're going to have the one-man show of Mick Foley.
Yes.
Mick Foley. And of course, I can't leave out my dear, lovely friend, Barbara Goodish, the widow of my late great friend, Bruiser Brody. She comes in every year. She clears her calendar for us. And she's going to be there. And Darla Staggs, the both of them became good friends with your wife. And and like I said, that's what you're talking about. You come there as a stranger, but I guarantee you, when you leave there, you're going to have a list of people in your phone that you exchange numbers with, and it's a good networking area. But yeah, Mick Foley will be there doing his one-man show that Friday evening, and then after that, there will be a private meet and greet for those who purchase the VIP treatment with him. Get your photographs with him and talk with him. Demolition, Axe and Smash is going to be there. D'Lo Brown. My good friend Carmine Despirito, great friend, longtime promoter, did a lot of work in the Chicago, Milwaukee area. I've been all over. He's always a hoot. I tell everybody, hopefully, if I can keep him in the right frame of mind, he'll do a little karaoke for us because he does some great karaoke. But Doink the Clown is going to be there in full costume, as you say. And then the Brooklyn Brawler, anywhere the Doink the Clown's around, you got the Brooklyn Brawler going to be there, I can tell you. He'll be lurking around somewhere. But and then Paul Ellering, the gentleman who took the LOD to their heights, is going to be there. The Power Pain, Barbarian, and the Warlord, both of them guys can get in there. And what you got to keep in mind, Kevin, is this year it's over in Illinois where there's no athletic commission. Right. So these guys don't have to be licensed through the state of athletic. So any one of these legends could be in a ring wrestling. But Harvey Wippleman, we talked about that on the show last night, that he scooted around that ring quicker than anybody I could think of other than Jimmy Hart. But Bobby Fulton, a good friend of mine, I got introduced to him. I love him. Bobby's a great guy. Him and Tommy Rogers, the Fantastics, did some work for us back in the day with Bruiser Brody. So I'm looking forward to seeing Bobby. Of course, you mentioned Mickey James. I mean, come on now. One of the best. And she'll be with us. Of course, Teddy Long, Mac Davis, Patricia Sutherland. Come on now. That girl smiles from the time she gets there until she's leaving. She's friendly. She knows. She
is one of the greatest human beings I think I've met in a very long time.
Oh my God!
Her and her and Barbara and Dora. Look, I swear to you, all the legends you had there last year, and you had some amazing ones. I swear, a true story. The person that I had, because look, I'm there. New podcast, right? I don't want to geek out in front of everybody. I want to be professional. The hardest person I had the hardest time maintaining myself, not geeking out. Barbara Goodish. When she came sat next to me because of Patricia, I met her through Patricia. She came sat next to me. I'm looking at my wife. That freaking Barbara Goodish is sitting next to me. I mean, but these people are just such amazing human beings.
Oh yeah. People like Dan DeBee Severin is going to be there.
Yeah.
A great guy. We just recently announced Haku is making his return. And then recently Carlito has been added to the list. And then rock and roll Robert Gibson is going to be there. And then we announced also Ricky Morton and his son Kerry Morton are joining us. And then the last that we announced is the traveling tour of the Koloff family with Nikita Koloff and
Neil.
They're coming.
Yep. By the way, Neil and Melody, they're going to be on the podcast here coming soon. And, you mentioned a couple of guys. Paul Ellering, I got to meet. At the same time, I got to meet Carlito here in Minnesota. Such great individuals. But Carlito, so I was walking around doing many interviews with a few of the local wrestlers here, and Carlos seen me, and I walked past him. Of course, I wasn't going to bother him. He stopped me. He's like, "You're not going to ask to talk to me." I mean, such a great guy. He really, really is. Granny Hulkster is watching. She's such a great fan. She says such an amazing and awesome lineup of legends. She is great. Again, guys, you can find out all your information, get all your tickets, SICW.org. Now, got about 10 minutes left. Before we wrap this up, Herb, look, sometimes I think that you're a glutton for punishment because you're so busy. Because something else you're involved in, the Cauliflower Alley Club, the CAC. Now, of course, we have the 60th annual anniversary coming up here. I think in August in Vegas. Last year was phenomenal. Man, how do you find time to do all of this. And talk to us a little bit, if you can, about the CAC 60th anniversary.
Well, the CAC is an organization that is really close to my heart because of what they do, their mission statement. They're there to help the men and women in our business, our industry. And at first, when people hear that, they think, oh, okay, yeah, maybe or whatever. And I probably was that way years ago when I first heard about it. But then I've actually seen firsthand of how they have touched people's lives that's fallen on hard times. And I'm talking about the men and women that's went out there and busted their butts to bring us entertainment. Sometimes, 7 nights a week. That's the other thing. There's wrestling. It's not seasonal. It's not like your other, the baseball, the football and all that. Wrestling doesn't take a holiday. So these guys are traveling, and back in the day, there was no flights. They weren't getting paid to fly here, fly there. They were carpooling and going 300-400 miles to the next town and leaving their families. And so when they get older and they fall on hard times, this CAC organization is one that like I said, I've personally seen how they have made people's life be expanded a little bit. Helping them with medical bills, helping them with house payments or rent payments or car payments. So the little donation that we as members can give goes a long way. They have a few, very few small corporate sponsors from now to time. But and then you get somebody like a Mick Foley that comes along and really jumps in and helps out, Those are all good things. But the CAC, this is their 60th anniversary. B. Brian Blair is the president, CEO. Rich Engling, the vice president. They have a board of directors. Darla Staggs is on the board there. Barbara Goodish is on the advisory board. My title they gave me as ambassador. And so my job is kind of to help promote the CAC. And I try to do that by ways of working with other promoters, giving them the same spiel I'm giving you now. What's the benefit of CAC? And some people say, well, what do I get out of it? Well, if you're like me, you get the enjoyment of knowing that you're helping somebody that you enjoyed watching, that you went and saw, that's fallen on hard times. And when you break it down to them like that, they pretty well up the money because it's real reasonable. And we have the reunion once a year in Las Vegas, and this is the 60th. I know Brian Blair has said he wants to make this even bigger and better than what it's been in the past. Because
I can't even imagine that. Because fans, last year, I'm telling you, that's my first year going. And last year, between the roast of Mick Foley, which, my God, was so funny, and then the emotional aspect of it, you would think you go into a professional, something, with professional wrestling. How can there be, that type of emotions where you're actually getting choked up, fighting the tears? Guys, I'm telling you, when you go to the awards aspect of the dinner, people being recognized, some of these guys that are larger than life, and you see them get so emotional because they're so touched that they're being recognized, is unlike anything you can experience as a wrestling fan.
Well, and I'll give you the example. I was honored with the award last year, the same as Mick Foley was. And I made the standing joke when I got up there that, they wanted you to keep it to a minimum of, 3 to 6 minutes of your acceptance speech. But I remember telling Rich Engling, because he's usually sits there and keeps track. And I told him, I said, hey, how do I take 52 years in this business and condense it down to, say, 10 minutes? Couldn't do it. Right. So, and I don't think, and I kept a track. I didn't see anybody get up and walking out of the room.
No, not at all. Not at all. We were deadlocked onto you. And, yours was one of them that was very emotional to read, not only because of you accepting the award, and you could tell the story. It's not mine to tell, but there was something very emotional and difficult that happened right when you were there.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've been through. And to see you there, still there, accepted that award, it was something very special. It really was, Herb.
Well, and that's why I mean, I wouldn't have been there if my brother hadn't insisted that I go,
Right.
because back in the early careers, I mean, I told the story that night where he helped me build my first ring for the cage fart in my garage. Him and another friend of mine, Jim Brown, worked day and night to get that done, and that cage lasted us about 25 years. And when he became ill, prior to me getting notified of the award, he was so excited. And, we even talked about him trying to make the trip, but we took the trip out in the RV, and he just knew that was going to be too much. But then I thought, well, I knew things were getting close for him. And I had told him, I said, he lives on the back of my property where he lived at. And I would remember talking to him, and I said, brother, I think I'm going to just skip it. And I said, they'll mail me whatever they're mailing me, if it's a piece of paper or a plaque or whatever. And he got upset. And so I hope that kind of built a little fire underneath him. But he said, no, you go, you earned it, you deserved it, and I want you to be there. Well, then, of course, as you know, while we were there the morning of the awards, I got the notification that he had passed away. And it was tough. But again, I know he was happy with that. But I think of him all the time, because there'd have been nothing better than have him and both my mother, who was not only my mother, but my wrestling companion. I mean, she loved the good guys, and I always rooted for the bad guys just to get a rile out of her, back in the day when we were watching it on our little 12-inch black and white TV. And, but things happen. And, but no, the CAC is a place that, and then the Thez Tragus Hall of Fame up in Waterloo, Iowa. Those two organizations is what I try to do the best for, because they are keeping that tradition, that legacy. I tell people, guys like me and all these other promoters out there, we're just building on the foundation that those legends built for us. And I am just so honored that I became so good friends with so many of them. That when I pick up a phone and call a Jerry Briscoe or a JBL or, Bob Orton or whoever it may be, we don't squabble over anything. It's, hey, where do you need me at? Tommy Wildfire Rich, by the time I get through joking and laughing with him, we get down to business. Or Tony Atlas, people like that over the years, and the ones that are even gone, the Crusher Blackwell, who done work for me, Dick Murdoch. Those were friendships that you made because of this business. And it's kind of what you said a while ago. If you come to Cauliflower Alley or come up to the Thez Tragus Hall of Fame, you're going to be with your people. You're going to be with that wrestling extended family, and you're going to network. And by the time you leave there, you're going to have people that you're going to become friends with. You're going to become social media friends with. And it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. And even the stories, one of my favorite stories, and it wasn't even a big deal, but you talked about, Cowboy Bob Orton. I really was able to become friendly with him in Vegas, with his sister, my wife hit it off. And we were walking to the casino to go meet up with him. And as soon as we walked up there, there's Bob Orton, son of a bitch. I can't believe I just, he had, I'm not gonna say how much he won, but he had won a little bit of money, and he didn't spend that much. And he was like, that just tickled him.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of those things, though, because I grew up watching this man on TV as a professional wrestler and how much you idolize him. And to see such humanity, I guess, in a way, they're no different than us. You see the human side, and it kind of registers with you, and you walk away with those stories like, I'd have been reacting the same way as he did if I won a little bit of money like that.
Well, and just as well as you're saying that, I mean, take and put yourself in my shoes, driving on some road trips with the likes of a Bob Orton and a Terry Funk sitting in a car. I've done that several times, and it was one of those deals where you're on the interstate, and I would set the cruise control like at 55 because I didn't want to get to where we were going quicker, because I wanted to keep hearing all those stories. I was that big sponge that just soaked all that information up. And there were some of the stories you hear over and over and over, but they're just as great. They're just as funny. And it gives these guys something to reminisce about. And one story triggers another thought, another memory. And it's good mind therapy for some of these guys that took so many headshots over the years, So,
yeah,
but or you got Crusher Blackwell and Bruiser Brody in a car with you, or Abdullah the Butcher with them. Hey guys, we're going to go around the block a bunch of times so I can keep hearing these stories, So I know what you're talking about when you're sitting there with Bob Orton,
Yeah. Now, as we close out, if you don't mind, can you share, and it's your choice, one story, and then I'm going to ask you, what is the best advice you would give to these guys who are promoters themselves that maybe been in business for a couple of years, but in their own right, they're young. I mean, you've been in the business as long as you are. These are kind of kids. So what would be your best advice for them?
Well, you got good questions, I'm telling you, because and they are great, legitimate questions, and every promoter out there, especially these young ones that are just getting their feet wet. I mean, the show I was at this last weekend, young promoter, has only been in it a year, came up. I'm sitting in the audience, came up and introduced himself to me, and you could tell he was, and he shouldn't have been, but he was kind of nervous. But people like me that have, and I don't want to say the brains of it, it's the knowledge of being, the experience of it. If I was a new promoter that was wanting to follow my dream today, I would find somebody like a Herb Simmons or somebody who has got the years of experience and say, hey, what does it take for me to do what you have done and to be and keep it going this long? But the problem is now they watch TV, they're fans, they think it's easy, they think they can go out and buy a ring. We always see this around tax time when people get their tax checks back. We see young men going out there purchasing a ring, and they're going to set the world on fire. They got the lights, they got the bombs going off and the fireworks, and then they got 30, 35 people sitting in an audience. And they ask themselves why. Or they got a grandfather or their parents are helping them out, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you really want to take it seriously, you have to learn the business. You got to know what the business was in order to go somewhere with it. And I've made that comments to another promoter. I'll leave him unnamed now because I don't want to get sued. But him and I had a conversation about what you know about your industry. I know nothing about. The same as what I know about my industry, I think I know quite a bit about. You're trying to mix apples and oranges with what you do, and you're wanting to use my apples over here, and we can't do this way. So, but again, my advice was hook up with some other promoters that even if they're in your area. And that's the other thing, all these promotions around, I don't know how it is across the country. I talk to other promoters that say there's a promotion on every corner. Well, you're playing to the same fans, same audience. But that's why territorial days worked so well back in the day, because towns were far enough apart. You didn't have to worry about a lot of crossover of fans. The guys could work the same, 5-6 nights a week in different towns. But that's all gone. It's not going to come back. People ask me all the time, well, do you think territories will come back? We've got a similar thing here. I mean, I've got 3 or 4 other promotions that we work together with. I use some of their talent. They use some of ours. We try not to book on the same dates as each other because we don't want to make the fans have to pick and choose where they want to spend their money at. So what happens when that goes like that way? The boys have another night of work. The fans have more choices to go and watch. So it's a win-win for everybody. But when you got promotions that are across the road or across the other side of town and you're booking the same nights, now you're putting the fans in that, where do we go? Who are we going to go see this time? I know Herb, we grew up together. We want to go support him, but so-and-so is a good friend with this wrestler over here. I say all the time, there are wrestling fans and then there are wrestlers fans. Mm-hmm. And the wrestlers fans are the ones that are coming there because one of their relations or a friend of theirs or somebody they know are working that night. And 9 out of 10 times when that happens, when that match is over with, if you put that individual on the first or second match after his match is over with, he leaves and his fans leave with him. The diehard wrestling fans are going to stay there until the last bell rings. And that's the difference in between a wrestling fan and a wrestler's fan.
Yeah. And I do want to close out with you telling the story. And I know that said that was my last question, but I lied to you. There's one person I want to ask you about because I am such a fan of hers. I don't, and no offense to any other, the professional wrestlers I've met with SICW, but she is just so tremendous. And I think that she's going to be a game changer one day. I think she's still young. I think she's going to be a game changer. And that is Lilith. Man, how's her career going?
She's doing good. She's doing some traveling. She is a graduate of the Ace Wrestling Academy. When she first signed up there, the boys, Sean and the Big Texan and even Bob Orton called me down and said, "Hey, you need to come down here and take a look at this." And of course, I tried to stay away from the training facility. I jump in there maybe once a month, twice a month, because I didn't want to have no pressure on them. Because when I would come in, the coaches would say, "Hey, this is the promoter. This is the guy you got to really perform for." And I would sit there some nights with Bob and just kind of keep my eyes on them. But they called me down there the night after a couple of nights. Lily had been working, and of course, the minute you walk in the room, she stands out, at her height. And so, Bob was telling me that if she stays healthy, she's got a good head on her shoulders, that she can go somewhere. And of course, then after several training nights that I would stop by there and see her improve, I was there the one night when she got the wind really knocked out of her bad. And of course, everybody wanted to huddle around her. "Oh, you okay?" And she got up and went to the back room. And they were all going to go back. I said, let her go back there by herself. Let her, this is the decision-making time. This is probably the most traumatic thing that, you get the wind knocked out of you and you can't breathe. And she was back there for 5-10 minutes or so. And we're kind of, we were keeping an eye back there. We were leaving her by her. "Hey, Bruiser," my puppy dog. So she come walking back out of the area. And of course, "Hey, you okay?" Yeah. And of course, she was trying to shake it off, but you could tell it really scared her. But that's what you call a decision-making time. If you can really make it, then you're going to have things like that happen now. Years down the road, it could happen again. And what she did is she hit the corner the wrong way when she got tossed into it.
Right.
And I said, "So what did you learn?" And she kind of looked down at me because you know how tall she is. And I could tell her mind. I said, "What did you learn?" And she said, "Well, I said, you don't have to tell me." I said, "But I'm going to tell you this. I bet you don't make that same mistake twice." And she said, "You're right." I don't think she ever has. And so you learn by those type of mistakes. But she's out traveling around at some other promotions, and she's one promotion has the title on her, championship women's title, and she's had that now for almost a year, I think. Everybody they feed to her, she just eats them alive. And because and you've seen her, she's a class act and very humble. Yep. But when she gets in there, it's all business. And a couple of times we've had her in matches. Some of the young ladies says, "Oh, she's stiff." Well, the marquee doesn't say ballet.
Right.
Right. This is wrestling, and she doesn't mean to do it, but when that adrenaline gets flowing in these men and women in that crowd, and that's what gets the adrenaline going. The louder that crowd is, boy, the better these men and women are going to perform. And she's just the same way. But if she stays healthy, and I've told her from the get-go, Medusa, you know Medusa.
Oh, absolutely.
Medusa told her, said, "Keep your head on straight, keep it on a swivel, because there are sharks out there." And and that's the fear I have, that I had the problem of like the Brandon Berettas, Strictly Business, or the Lilith Khans. You get attached to them, and it's not that you don't want them to venture out. It's just because, as I talked earlier about having the experience of the business, I also have this experience of the bad part of the business.
Right.
And I tell them, keep your head on that swivel, because there are people out there who will use you and abuse you and then throw you out. And that doesn't happen here. If
Right.
I have an issue, which is been very far and few between in 53 years of people that we couldn't see eye to eye on something. In fact, one gentleman had been gone, he just came back. He was gone for 10 years from me because we couldn't see eye to eye on some things. But now he's back in my locker room. You know, life is too short to hold these grudges. Took him years to understand, but we had, and it's a great angle we're shooting, and he's grown up. I've got older, and I think the one thing that I bring to the table, and I think any of my guys in the locker room will tell you, is I have the best set of ears ever. You may not always want to hear what comes out of my mouth after I hear what you've got to say, but I will give you a reason why that it won't work. I always tell them, if I have to eat crow, I want to have something to say about how it's cooked.
Right. Look, I can testify the way, and I'm not going to go into the details, but the way you and I met, was you giving me we only knew each other from social media. I didn't even meet you yet, and you gave me some advice. But you know what? Because of the experience and the respect, and because I kept my ears open and I shut my mouth, it led to something great. It really,
and you stop and think of what you're doing. Like I said, you got these guests coming on there that are people who mean something. It's just, you're not sitting there talking with your buddies. I mean, you bring Bob Cook on. Come on now. I mean, there's a guy that, like I said, he's made a lot of these legends. Back then I hated the word jobber, but he wasn't. He was an enhancement guy. He enhanced these people's stardom for him. But there's a lot of those terms out there that got created many, many years ago. Marks, and I never consider anybody a mark. When you come and put your money down on one of my shows, you're not a mark. You're a human being that's spending your hard-earned money.
I've always argued that. I've always argued the word mark. I went, aren't we all marks for professional wrestling? I mean, how is that a bad thing?
I remember Jerry Briscoe up at Waterloo, Iowa, many years ago. They had a seminar they do up there during that convention. And they asked me to come up, and I was sitting at ringside with him and James Beard, great guy, referee James Beard. If you haven't picked up his book, Third Man in the Ring, you got to pick that up. So we were kind of evaluating the students. There was wrestling, and then they'd take them over into another room after they all got done, and then we all got to critique them. And I would never forget, Jerry Briscoe said, I'll tell you one thing. He said, everybody talks about being a mark. He said, hell, I've been a mark for all these years. I mark out about 18 hours a week on watching TV. But again, it's just that, the way it's presented, my fans aren't marks. My fans are human beings that spend their hard-earned money to come and help support what we do.
Absolutely. Speaking of a great guy, another one, Terry Zeller.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, gentlemen. He just got back. This guy just got back from Jamaica, but while he was in Jamaica, I swear to you, he was watching my podcast. You want to talk about making someone feel good? And Laurie Burke says, awesome book. I love James Beard. Let's close this. Do you have a feel-good story you can share with us?
I'm sorry?
A feel-good story. A story you can share as we close the show out.
Well, I feel good about wrestling.
There you go.
It is, my wife will tell you that I'm never lost for words when it comes to wrestling. I always joke with her when I have to, because in my day job, I have a lot of meetings I have to go to and give presentations and things of that sort. And I always joke, I'm going out, I don't know what I'm going to say. And she'll always say, don't worry, you're never lost for words. There will be somebody there that wants to talk about wrestling. And and she's right. Usually wherever I go, if it's a political function or whatever it might be, it's something to do at work, they all know me from all the years of doing the wrestling here in the Midwest, And guess who just chimed in?
Darla, one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Oh my gosh!
But, yep, love you, Darla. I can't wait to see you in a few 4 months.
Oh, she didn't tell you she canceled.
What?
Yeah, she canceled. She's not coming. She don't like me no more.
She better be there.
She's right there on that. She's on that keyboard right now. I can tell you what she's doing.
Fans, I'm telling you, get your tickets, SICW for Fanfest 4. You won't be sorry. I'm going to be there. Come say hello to me as well. Look, if you want to meet one of the biggest marks in professional wrestling, this guy right here, since I was 8 years old, watching Mid-South, Junkyard Dog, Ernie Ladd. You know,
Ernie the Cat Lad.
Ernie the Cat Lad. Yeah, such fan. You know, I'm a huge Mark. Herb, man, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure getting to speak to you. It's so much love for you. I can't wait to see you in a few months. Anything you want to re-promote or put out there before we?
Well, like I said, we got a busy schedule. I mean, just before I was late getting here tonight. Because Shawneetown, Illinois, we're going to be there again this June for the local Cold Day Festival they have down there. The fire chief, Terry, is a good friend, and I help them out every year. And it's special because my grandparents was from Shawneetown, Illinois. It's in southern part of Illinois, almost down to the Evansville, Indiana border. Always there. Like I said, the Shriners going to again this year on the 21st of February. This coming Saturday, we're in Belleville back at the fairgrounds. Madman Pondo makes his debut with SICW. Him and Attila Khan taking on the Gateway Saints, Sean Vincent and Jason Breed. And then co-feature the team of Dysfunction, Brandon Beretta, Kyle Roberts, and Chris Exodus. They have a team of about 8 or 9 guys called Dysfunction. And boy, they are dysfunction. But they're going to be taking on Curtis Wilde and the popular Billy McNeil. A lot of great under match cards there. But, you know, the fairgrounds, I've been running there since the late 70s. That's where I first brought Bruiser Brody and Dick Murdoch and Crusher Blackwell. Luthez was a special guest referee there for me. So, and think here we're still all these years. Darla says I'm shaking my head at her. He knows I'll be there. I told you she was typing. Yeah. So, yeah, her and Barbara, I can always count on them. And I know she's told you that story before. You know, she was at a match in 1959 at the Kiel Auditorium when she was being held in her arms by her father when Dick Hutton and Pat O'Connor was wrestling for the NWA title. But so she's not that old, but she was at that 1959 match.
Yep.
So, but hey, Kevin, I really appreciate the invite. Anytime you need a filler, we could sit and talk all night long about wrestling.
We could. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Tomorrow night, guys, we're going to be doing the recap of Monday Night Raw. It's me, myself, the co-host of Wrestling Memories. I'm talking about the Grizzle Vet and as well as WCW veteran and author of Looking at the Lights, Robbie Ido, and the one and only Hall of Famer, Wrestling Hall of Famer, Florida Championship Wrestling veteran, WCW, WWE, the Cooker, Bob Cook. They will all be joining me tomorrow night to talk about Monday Night Raw. Did we like it? Did we love it? Did we hate it? Find out. Herb, again, thank you so much, my friend. We'll be talking. We talk all the time. And again, I can't wait to see you in May.
Very good. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.